G'day folks, Costo here once again as the host now of Bushbeat, where we proudly showcase country rugby league right around Queensland, New South Wales and the ACT, but also the grassroots in the other states. Coming up in episode number 20, you'll hear from former NRL and Super League player Aaron Gorrell, who's aiming to continue the misery for Wagga Kangaroos in recent Group 9 grand finals in southern New South Wales. Aaron is the coach of the Gundagai Tigers. We'll also recap grand finals played last weekend from Melbourne to North Queensland, but after the break, our statewide scoreboard for New South Wales and the ACT. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com, and as per usual, we kick off our New South Wales scoreboard with a look at Newcastle, where it's grand final week, an exciting weekend coming up in the Hunter. And the Denton Cup continued last weekend with week 3 of the playoffs. All eyes were on the coalfields for the preliminary final between Cessnock Goannas and Western Suburbs Rosellas. Full-time score at Curry, Goannas 26, Rosellas 24. So Cessnock to now take on the Maitland Pickers in the grand final this Sunday at McDonald Jones Stadium. Kickoff is 3 o'clock. Good luck to both teams for what is certainly a big day on the local sporting calendar in the Hunter. In the Northern Rivers last Sunday, all eyes on Lismore. Marist Brothers up against the Murwillumbah Mustangs in the grand final. Full-time score, Marist Brothers 20, Mustangs 12. Congratulations to Marist Brothers. In Group 3, it is grand final week. The finals continued last weekend. It was the preliminary final, in fact. Port Macquarie, the Sharkies hosting Macleay Valley Mustangs. Sharks 26, Mustangs 12. So Port Mac to now play Old Bar Pirates in the season finale. That'll be on Sunday at Old Bar. Kickoff is 3:30. Good luck to both the Pirates and the Sharks. On the Central Coast, it is also grand final week. Last weekend, the preliminary final between Erina and Kincumber, and it was the Colts who caused a major upset, 18 points to 6 over the Eagles. Nathan Davis and Lewis Radley both getting doubles for Kincumber, whose 5'8" Matt Moylan, the former NRL and Super League star, was outstanding. The Colts to now play Toukley in the decider on Saturday at Morrie Breen. Kickoff is 4:30. Good luck to both teams. And as for Erina, a huge letdown for them after losing just one game during the regular season. In the Macarthur, it is grand final week also, with all roads leading to Campbelltown this Sunday. Last weekend at the Dudley Chesham Sports Ground, Oakdale Workers versus Collegians in the preliminary final. And it was Collegians who prevailed, 32-22, the final score, which means Collegians will now face last year's premiers and the Clayton Cup winners from 2024, the Camden Rams, in the season finale at Campbelltown Stadium. Kickoff on Sunday, 3:15. Good luck to both the Rams and, of course, Collegians. Back on the coast, we have the Illawarra season coming to a close last Saturday. Old rivals Collegians and Western Suburbs went head-to-head in the grand final at Wynn Stadium. West prevailed 14 points to 8 in an absorbing affair. It went to extra time, so back-to-back titles for the Devils. Congratulations to Western Suburbs. In Group 7 last weekend, in what was billed as the minor grand final qualifying final, that sounds like a mouthful. It is a mouthful. Albion Park, they beat the defending premiers Gerringong 38-16, which means the Lions are now gone for 2025. And 24 hours later, in the major grand final qualifying final, again, a bit of a mouthful. Effectively, it was a preliminary final of sorts. Confusing to a lot of outsiders. But anyway, minor premiers Shellharbour 16, Kiama 22, which means the Knights can now sit back, having qualified for the grand final. They're straight through Kiama. Their opponents to be revealed this Saturday when they have the preliminary final at Gerringong and at Shellharbour versus Albion Park. Kickoff is 3 o'clock. In Group 9, the Riverina, it is grand final week, and soon we'll hear from one of the key figures involved in that one. The preliminary final took place last Sunday at Twickenham. That's the home ground of the Tumut Blues. And it was Gundagai who defeated the defending premiers Young, the Cherry Pickers, exiting the competition thanks to the Tigers. Full-time score there, 32 points to 20. The Tigers to now meet the big spending Kangaroos in the Premiership decider this Sunday at GeoHex in Wagga. Kickoff is 2:30. The Roos, seen as the glamour boys in the competition, whether they like it or not, they are the raging hot favourites after doing whatever they could in recent years to buy a comp. Let's see if they lift the trophy on Sunday. Good luck to both Roos and Gundagai for the big one in the City of Crows. In Group 20, Week 2 of the playoffs, Hay Magpies beat Leeton Greenies 28-24. That was sudden death, so bye-bye to Leeton. And the minor premiers, Darlington Point Colliamberley, they defeated Waratahs 40 points to 26. The Roosters straight into the grand final. The Tigers to now play the Magpies in the preliminary final. That'll be played at Leeton on Sunday from 3 o'clock. In the ACT, the Canberra Raiders Cup, last Saturday at Seaford, Roos and Blues, the old rivals from way back. They went head-to-head in the big one, and it was the Blues who lifted the trophy, 28-26 over Roos at the spiritual home of the Canberra Raiders. Congratulations to Queanbeyan Blues. Finally, the George Took Shield, which is effectively the second division out of Canberra and neighbouring communities across the border. Last Saturday, the preliminary final at Burrawa, where the Rovers faced the Harden Hawks, and it was the Hawks who prevailed 38-28 over the Rovers. Harden to now play the Bungendore Tigers in the season finale. Yes, it's grand final week in that part of the world as well. That'll be played on Saturday from 2:30 at Bungendore. Good luck to both teams in the GTS. That is New South Wales and the ACT done and dusted. After the break, we'll catch up with Aaron Gorrell, the coach of the Gundagai Tigers, as they prepare for the big dance in the City of Crows. That is next on Bushbeat. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com, and I'm now joined by one of the coaches coming into the grand final this Sunday in Group 9 in the Riverina, as promised. Aaron Gorrell is the coach of the Gundagai Tigers. Goz joins us right now on Bushbeat. Goz, welcome to Bushbeat. Are you excited? They don't come around all that often, do they, grand finals? You've got to be good enough to get there.
Thanks for having me, mate. Yeah, it's great. For a small little country town, I think they punch well above their weight. And, I've had a bit to do with a few clubs, and, this has probably been so far my most enjoyable one. I've been lucky enough to win a few, but, hopefully we can do the same on Sunday.
Can you tell us about the feeling and the vibe in Gundagai? It's a famous Australian town, as you know, halfway roughly between the two big cities of Sydney and Melbourne. How's Gundagai this week coming into grand final day on Sunday?
Yeah, it's alive, mate. We've had really good support all year, the locals really get behind us, and I was only looking on Tuesday when I went out for training, and they got light posts either side of the road all the way up the main street, and they got big Tiger Time flags hanging off either side of them. So it's most shop fronts have got something Tigers in their front window. So really looking forward to the weekend.
Aaron, can you explain to our listeners far and wide how significant rugby league is in a little place like Gundagai? Because as I understand and as I know full well, there's no real soccer, AFL, Aussie rules, union, the dark side. Rugby league, it's basically in the DNA of the townsfolk, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Everything sport related in Gundagai is pretty much rugby league. You might get a few little travel to other places to play a different sport, but rugby league's number one sport, and they live and breathe it. And the following we've got's huge. So really looking forward to hopefully doing a job for them on Sunday.
Before we get into the grand final and the theatrics that may well unfold on Sunday afternoon at Geo Hex and Wagga, can you describe the feeling of playing at Anzac Park? It's one of the great bastions of country rugby league. What's it like there with the eye of the tiger and the music blaring over the PA and the crowd revved up on any given Sunday or home game for the Gundagai Tigers? What's it feel like? Can you paint a picture for us?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It'll be a hostile environment for those away teams, but there's a little crew that get up on the hill there, and they've got their 44-gallon drum with their fire in it, and we run out and there's fireworks, and I'm not talking little bungers. It's a fair show, and every time we score, the same. So it's good. It's something I've never seen before. Growing up in Wollongong, there's none of that sort of stuff, but our crowds this year have been huge. We've had both ladies' teams made the finals. Unfortunately, went out the first week. Reserve grade made the prelim, and obviously we're still going. So, for a town its size, I think they go pretty well.
Now, you mentioned the fireworks on the banks of the Murrumbidgee. Let's cut to the chase. Can we expect some fireworks possibly in the grand final against Kangaroos? There's a bit of history between the two clubs.
Yeah, there is, and they've been beaten the last two grand finals, so hopefully we can bring a few of those memories back. But it's going to be physical. They've been the benchmark all year. During the season, we was one apiece, and then they got us in the major semi. But it was probably one of our worst games. And we bounced back last week, and if we can use that as the blueprint for us and the way we played last week, I think we'll give it a good shake.
Well, let's talk about last week, because it wasn't a home game, but it was the next best thing. Twickenham, the home of the Chimney Blues, not too far from Gundagai. That's where you played the defending champions and you beat the young cherry pickers. Can you describe that game and how it unfolded? It was a 2-score game at the finals hooter, but did you like what you saw last week going into the grand final?
Yeah, the first half was nearly perfect football from us. We scored first. We scored the first 4, but we probably let ourselves down with our completion rate in that game against the Kangaroos in the semi. But the first half of last week, it was pretty clinical. We made 2 errors which were off their kicks, but our sets we were 15 from 15 completion. So if we can do that, I think you'll get fatigue in the opposition sides, and you reap the benefits in that later stages of the game. So that's what we'll be hoping to do on Sunday.
What do you think of playing Wagga Kangaroos in Wagga? Does Geo Hex carry any sense of fortress? You're the opposition team there. Wagga Kangaroos will have a big crowd of people there turning up. I'm sure you'll have your own convoy coming in from Gundagai, but do you hold any reservations about playing in the City of Crows?
No, not at all. That's where we beat them this year. So there's no reason we can't do it again. We're just got to play our brand of footy and make sure we play for 80 minutes. As I said, they're the benchmark all year, and played in the last 2 grand finals and lost them both. Hopefully we can get that hat trick for them.
I want to delve in a bit deeper here. Kangaroos have left no stone unturned. They're seen as a big spending club. Their club officials won't like that talk in the media. You know this and I know that, but the reality is they are seen as the glamour side of the competition. And some would say they've tried to buy a premiership. They must have strengths right across the park. Where do you see their major threats?
Yeah, their pack's very good, but then they've got blokes like Nathan Rose and James Smart in the halves who will get them around. 2 old heads and have been around footy for a long time and both played at a decent level. Their right centre, he's a handful. He was a leading try scorer this year, so the battle's out there between our PNG flyer, Gabriel Gull, who missed the birth of his first kid to playing last weekend's game. So, it's a massive sacrifice for a game of footy. So we're going to make sure we repay him. But, they're a good side. We're going to have to be good right across the park, mate.
Well, it could be a big week for the Flying Gull with the baby coming along, obviously getting to the grand final, 50 years of independence for PNG. I'm sure he's well aware of all those things and more.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what he's aware of, to be honest.
What is he? What is he a bit quiet? Is he?
No, he's quiet, but I wouldn't like to be playing against him. I'm pretty confident most of our blokes are happy he's on our side. He's a damaging player and plays really physical. He's nearly a dead set copy of Justin Olam, even looks wise. So hopefully he can come up with some special stuff on the weekend.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I'm not sure if you came up against Justin Olam, but you probably did come up against Marcus Bai. Is he a cross perhaps between both of those players?
Every PNG fella I've played against, Stanley Jean included, very tough. It's like you're hitting a concrete wall. So, he's the same. He's a lovely bloke. He's come and stayed at our place in Canberra a couple of times, and he's just a really good person. And what he sacrificed for us last weekend is huge.
Gabriel Gull, hey, that's his name.
That's his name.
Yeah, we see his name come through each week on the portal. He scores plenty of tries, and I'm sure he brings a lot of people through the turnstiles. Aaron Gorrell, coach of Gundagai, can you tell us about your final preparations? You've got training, Friday night at Anzac Park? Probably not going to answer the question, but I'm going to ask you. Any players under an injury cloud?
No, we're flying, fully fit, like everyone at this time of year.
Do you want to send? You can send a cheerio call to Nathan Rose and Peter Hurstonco if you want.
No, yeah, mate. You know what it's like at this time of year. Everybody's carrying little niggles and stuff like that. But it's a grand final, and you're going to struggle if you're going to struggle to get up for a grand final, you're probably in the wrong game. So, it'll be nice and physical. I'm looking forward to it. It's a very long week. I'm just glad they've had to wait 2 weeks for it. I'm not too sure how I would have gone waiting 2 weeks.
Yeah, are you saying you're pleased to be in the position you are? You're saying that, and I dare say you've coached New South Wales country, Aaron. So you're across a number of competitions. This business of sitting out a week doesn't always work out well, does it?
No, it doesn't. As a coach, I've been on both ends of it, and obviously you like to have that box ticked and you're in there waiting, but it can sometimes work against you too. So this will only be their second game in 4 weeks. So we've gone through the long way, but I think that can be used to your advantage sometimes too.
And what about you personally? You mentioned your base in Canberra, travelling across to Gundagai. You've had games down on the border with Victoria. You've had your New South Wales country commitments. It's been an action-packed season for yourself as a coach, and I know it's something you take very seriously like anyone else, and you've got great ambitions in that regard.
Yeah, it's been a rewarding year. New South Wales country job was great, and it's always good to coach players of that standard, and to get the win over cities, just that bonus. And then it's a little bit of travel, but I wouldn't change it. And it's been great, and it's always easier when you've got a wife that helps out and follows you and supports you. So yeah.
I can fondly remember calling you, of course, playing in the Red V of St George Illawarra, including that very famous victory in Auckland many moons ago against the Warriors, the no-name Dragons team, as we called it, or something like that. A bunch of misfits and rejects and whatever else. And commentators like me, we had egg on our face that day. But in all seriousness, you played in Super League. Would you like to go abroad and coach, or coach at the highest level? Tell us, don't be backward and coming forward. What are your ambitions?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's a passion of mine, and obviously after you finish playing, you've got that hole, and I was lucky enough to coach straight out of playing, and captain coach for a little while, and had some success. And it's just I've had a year off here and there, and you miss it. So it's something I take seriously, and if an opportunity come up somewhere, I'd grab it with both hands, and obviously we're going to get this win out of the way on the weekend. And in the future, if something come up, I'd love to have a crack.
All right, one final question. Aaron Gorrell, you got your final piece of advice for your players, the playing group, before they run out on GeoHex or at GeoHex in Wagga on Sunday. What are those final instructions? Can we get inside your brain? What are you saying to the players to get the job done?
I'm not sure you want to be inside my head. No. You just embrace it. You got to enjoy it, but don't miss your opportunities. So go out there and play footy. In the end, it's the same things win you the game. So we just got to make sure we win the big moments and keep our heads and not get too carried away, and just be happy to play that long game.
We wish you well on Sunday. May the best team win.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
There he is, Aaron Gorrell, the coach of the Gundagai Tigers, grand final bound, the big dance in Wagga on Sunday against Kangaroos. Good luck to both teams. Stick around and we'll have more of Bushbeat right after this. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com, and I'm with one of the heroes for Souths in Townsville from last weekend. He won another grand final, except this time they went through the season undefeated. Now, it doesn't happen very often in rugby league, in the bush or anywhere for that matter, but Souths did it, didn't drop a game all season. And Curtis Dempsey was a big part of that. He was the captain of the side that lifted the trophy last weekend. Curtis, welcome to Bushbeat. What a past few days it must have been for you and your teammates celebrating a tremendous season for the Redmen.
No, thanks for having me. It was an awesome achievement, like you said, and the last few days have definitely been a big celebration.
Now, when we went through the scores just a moment ago across Queensland, it was my apologies for this, but I didn't put it into perspective. You won the grand final last year, so you've gone back-to-back, a terrific achievement in its own right. To win a premiership was one thing, but to retain the trophy, something extra.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was our goal all year, was to try and go back to back. But I guess once you actually do it, you realise how big of an achievement it actually is, and to do it undefeated, I guess that's a bigger feat again.
Can I ask you about that whole concept of going through undefeated? The more games you played, I dare say, the more it became obvious that it became a possibility, and there would have been surely more talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. And like as soon as down at the end of the regular season, we were definitely talking about it here and there. But once we kind of got into the final series, and particularly the grand final week, we just kind of left it out of the talks as much as we could, because we didn't want to jinx ourselves and whatnot. And we knew how far we've come, and in general, that all that sort of stuff didn't mean anything if we didn't win on the weekend. So once they got to like the finals, like I was saying, and even like I said, the grand final, it was nothing about being undefeated anymore. It was just about doing the job and winning on the weekend. So yeah.
Can you take us back to last weekend at Jack Mansky? Because for those people not familiar with the local setup in Townsville, that's the home of Brothers. They were your opponents. You happened to be the home team at the home of the Fish. Was that a bit of a funny feeling for you and your teammates?
Oh, I mean, definitely. The rivalry between South and Brothers goes back long way. And a lot of the old boys, once they knew we were playing at Brothers, didn't have a few too many nice words. But yeah, no, we somehow were the home team, which was a strange feeling. But once you kind of got out there, or even got into the venue, the sea of red there was unmatched.
Was it disappointing you didn't get to play at the famous Townsville Sports Reserve, the place where the dream of the Cowboys was born all those years ago before you were brought into this world, and where your dad played with such valour and courage and all of those things and more, playing for South many years ago? Are you disappointed you didn't get to play in the big dance at the reserve?
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a disappointing feat. I think it's more of it just felt a bit different. Like we played there last year for the grand final, and I just feel like growing up, like you said, Dad played there, and all the stories he used to tell about Foley Shield and South and whatnot. Like being able to play at Sports Reserve was a big thing, and like you, Field 1 growing up, never really got to play on there too often. So being able to play on Field 1 was a big thing at Sports Reserve, from what I can remember and put together. So not being not being allowed that chance and opportunity to be able to play out on that field was a bit disappointing, I guess you could say. But I think it was just more, it felt really strange that the grand final was held at Brothers.
So what, last year it was at the reserve? Can you just clarify that?
Yep. So last year we versed Western Lions at the Sports Reserve fields.
Yeah, okay.
Field 1.
Yep. So this year just a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Well,
too much.
Well, they say it was double booked, but that stuff's out of your control. You can only control what happened, obviously, on the field. What about the honour of captaining South, a famous club, been there from the get-go, from those early days when the game started in Townsville, and your family history with the club at Victoria Park? I'm sure that's not lost on you.
No, definitely. And like you said, I got a big history at South. Dad played there. And I think it's the only club he ever played for. And if you ever spoke to Dad, or if anyone ever spoke to Dad, everything was about South and the culture they had, and everything that they built like that. And Mum played there for the few years she did play footy. So South has a big impact, I should say, in my family, and being able to captain, I guess, a side like that. With the names that was in that team and the culture we had, it's looking back now, it's pretty surreal.
I'm going to compare apples to mangoes, so to speak, with different eras. You know where I'm going with this, with your father and yourself.
Yeah.
You knew this question was coming, and I did speak to your dad before coming on air with you. And I remember reporting on your dad's heroics playing for South all those years ago, and he was everything that you've heard and more. And that's back in my day at the Townsville Bulletin and also at Win TV, the local Channel 9 affiliate. But I want to ask you this. Do you have to pinch yourself that your father, Mick Dempsey, was there in, 1984 when South went through undefeated, and he was part of that grand final winning side, and you've done the same thing, albeit as captain 41 years later?
Yeah, definitely. we always talk about it. And Dad, if you know Dad loves to talk about his footy stories, and it's a massive part in his life. It's the footy, and a lot of that is South. So you always hear those stories, and that's probably one of his most memorable ones he always talks about is that year and that he went through undefeated. And I guess me being a big footy, having footy is a big part of my life as well. We always try and compare a bit. So definitely let him know that did the same thing as he did, but I captained this one, so I got one leg up on him for that.
Yeah, well, that's right. But he's won 3 premierships in the top grade. You've now won 2, so I'm sure he's reminded you of that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's all competition, and I mean, hopefully I still got a few more to win. Don't want to jinx it all, but yeah, hopefully I can get that third one before he keeps reminding me too much.
Well, how old are you now? You're still in your mid-20s, aren't you?
Yeah, 25.
Oh, you've got oodles of time. I need to ask you this, Curtis. A few weeks ago when you had the bye, your famous club, had a big get-together celebrating 110 years of history. I've seen the photos on the socials, you and your dad up on stage over on Magnetic Island. And some of the players that your dad played with and people you know, Tony Camboras, Chris Phelan, Gene Miles, Colin Scott. Look, I'm going to miss out people here and embarrass myself, but it must be so special to be part of a club that is so steeped in history. And a lot of our listeners would be unaware of the fact that up until, a few years ago, Souths were out of the limelight. In fact, you basically folded as a club in terms of the top grade. You weren't there for more than 20 years and you've come back with a vengeance.
Yeah, definitely. It was, like you said, over 20 years that Souths were out of the comp and for whatever reason. And I had the opportunity to go over with Dad to the old boys reunion day, and I was able to put some faces to a lot of the stories that Dad has. And I think as a young fellow who idolised his dad as one of his idols in footy and one of the people that everyone looked up to and is like a role model for myself, to be able to talk to, I guess, and be recognised by his role models and his stars and his idols that he used to look up to playing footy, I think that was probably the best thing about it all, because not every day do you get to meet your idol, but to be able to meet your idol's idol, I think, is a pretty tremendous thing.
Yeah, quite surreal, I would have thought. Can you, for the benefit of our listeners far and wide, Curtis, can you go through some of the big names playing locally in Townsville? Because having an NRL team in town, obviously that filters down to the Black Hawks, where you obviously had some history as well. You can feel free to touch on that. But that obviously keeps filtering down through to the grassroots at the local league.
Yeah, definitely. So you just want me to go through some of the names that play in local A grade?
Yeah, no. There's no shame if you miss anyone out, but around the club, there's some big names there.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely miss a few. But I think I was pretty lucky to play alongside a lot of them, like the likes of, I think the main one, I guess you could say, the one that was talked about the most this year was Kyle Labour. He's had a lot of credentials to his name, and he's an international superstar, I guess, if you go over to PNG and you ask anyone over there. But the likes of Paddy Kafusi and Sione Lausi and those sort of blokes as well are the veterans, I guess, of the league, and they lead by example. But we got a lot of young fellas coming through the comp at the moment, and like the likes of Tejon Messasano, Declan Dowson, Mickey Carroll. Some of them are getting on, but yeah, there's a lot of bright superstars. They're a lot of the ones that play for the South Bulls, but the ones from Brothers and that sort of things that really put a bit of competition towards you, like the likes of Sean Burke and Lockie Lurch, and you got Jake Burke out at Charters, and you got the likes of Benny Camps at Hober River. So you just got a lot of good names and a lot of young talent getting around at the moment, mixed with that veteranized status. Really made a good comp this year.
Now, they tell me you're not the only person with Dempsey blood that had grand final success this year.
Well, yeah. My nephew played under 14s and played up in the under 15s comps. And that was on the Saturday, and he was lucky enough to win both of those. So yeah, we were lucky enough to win our grand finals. But my sister played for the Lions, the girls team actually, just before I played, but they were not as lucky.
I have to ask you here about your late Uncle Phil. I remember him fondly growing up myself. I saw him a few years ago before he sadly passed away, battling that terrible illness that he faced with great courage. Tell us about your relationship with Uncle Phil, because he came to Mackay. Your family effectively grew up in Townsville, but Uncle Phil went to Mackay years ago, got to play against your dad famously once in a Foley Shield game. I'm sure some of the stories that have been passed around, part of family folklore.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, that competition, Dad and Uncle Phil always had that rivalry and that competition in them. So, when they talk about those sorts of stories, it always gets a bit heated, I guess you could say, in a family way. But no, Uncle Phil, I was pretty close with Uncle Phil. Even though he moved to Mackay, when I was growing up playing Blackhawks and that, if we ever went to Mackay or at any kind of away games, he was always there, and we'd make sure we stop in to see him, and he always sent back through. He always sent back through a lot of the Carlton clothes and that sort of stuff. So, I was close with Uncle Phil and Auntie Des, and it was pretty emotional when he did pass.
Well, please give our best wishes on to Auntie Des, and I'm sure she's very proud of you and your latest achievements. Can I ask you about your ambitions for next year? I know you've just won the grand final again. Imagine that, winning 3 on the trot.
Yeah, that'd be I guess one of my top goals next year. I haven't really thought too much about next year. Still trying to get over and recover from the celebrations. But yeah, I was, like you said before, I was in the Blackhawks squad a few years ago, and I feel like the footy that I played this year kind of just reignited that fire to possibly play that level of footy again. But if that ever doesn't happen, I think I'd be more than happy to try and go. Like you said, for a three-peat, that'd be probably next in line.
Well, again, congratulations on your latest success, going through undefeated. That is something to skite about, something to tell the kids and grandkids in years to come, and a tremendous achievement. And I'm sure the family's proud, your fans are proud, and you've got plenty to be proud of. Thanks very much for joining us, Curtis.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Curtis Dempsey, the captain of the premiership-winning Souths, the Redmen, going through undefeated this year in the Townsville Rugby League competition, speaking to us here on Bushbeat on rugbyleague.com. Stick around, folks. We've got more to come right after this. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com and our statewide scoreboard for Queensland. Starting off with Townsville, the capital of the North, and last weekend they had the grand final between Souths and Brothers, two great rivals going back many decades, in fact, back to the early days of the Townsville Rugby League. The grand final took place at Jack Mansky Oval. For the out-of-towners, those people not familiar, that's the home of Brothers, but it was Souths who got the job done. The final score in the grand final in Townsville, Souths 22, Brothers 8. So congratulations to the Red Men. And we'll hear from one of the grand final heroes for Souths very shortly, right here on Bushbeat. On the Sunshine Coast, last weekend, the grand final took place at the Sunny Coast Regional Stadium. Stanley River beat Maroochydore by just 2 points. The Wolves 22, the Swans 20. Congratulations to Stanley River. In the Ipswich Rugby League, last Sunday, the minor premiers Redbank Plains took on the Jets in the GF, and it was the Bears who reigned supreme. 28 points to 24, the final score at the North Ipswich Reserve. Congratulations to Redbank Plains. To Toowoomba now, where it's the Carnival of Flowers taking place. It's a big event in the local community, but another big show is the grand final. That's happening this Sunday. So plenty happening in this part of the world. Last Sunday, they had the preliminary final. That was between Wattles and Brothers at the Toowoomba Sports Ground. An incredible game from all reports. Wattles winning 29 points to 28, which I look at the score and I think, hang on, that was the same score on the same day in Canberra between the Raiders and the Broncos. I'll repeat that again. Wattles 29, defeating Brothers 28. And in the Garden City, I might add that Dwayne Duncan's field goal proving the difference. So he would have been the toast of his teammates, no doubt about that, getting Wattles into the big dance, which will be taking place this Sunday. That's the grand final in Toowoomba, and up against a formidable opponent, I've got to say. The Gatton Hawks, they haven't missed a beat all season. Undefeated, Gatton starting hot favourites in that grand final this Sunday in Toowoomba against Wattles. Finally, the Gold Coast, also its grand final week in that part of the world. Last weekend, they had Currumbin versus Tugun in the preliminary final at the Merv Craig Sporting Complex. And another cracking game from all reports, Costigans scraping home 19 points to 18 over Currumbin. So the Seahawks through to the big dance against the minor premiers Burleigh. Good luck to both teams. You are listening to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com, and I'm your host, Jason Costigan. Our second last show for the year continues right after the break. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com and our final segment where we look at the greatest game of all in our second biggest city in the country. Last weekend, the Melbourne Storm Premiership was decided in the capital of Victoria. Truganina up against the minor premiers Northern Thunder at the Seabrook Reserve, and it was the Thunder who emerged victorious against the Bunnies. The final score, 32 points to 6, the Thunder over Truganina. The Thunder scoring 6 tries to 1 in what was a comprehensive victory, I've got to say. Truganina looking to celebrate the club's 10th anniversary with another grand final win, but it wasn't to be, with former NRL star Justin O'Neill. Remember him? Well, he was playing fullback last weekend for the Thunder, and among the heroes for the winning side, O'Neill, just to jog your memory, he won 2 grand finals at the NRL level, firstly with the Melbourne Storm, then the Cowboys, in addition to playing for his state and country. An impressive CV and winning another trophy last weekend at the age of 34. So congratulations to Justin O'Neill and the Northern Thunder. That is our show for this week. We're almost completely out of time. As always, thanks to my colleague in London, Steve Mascord, for getting us to air. And thanks to you for tuning in. Next week, our final show for 2025, and coming soon, we should get the plug in right now, a new show, Costo's World of Rugby League, and particularly if you like your international rugby league, keep an eye out for that. Costo's World of Rugby League coming soon to rugbyleague.com. For now, this is Costo signing off on Bushbeat. Stick around, the news is next.